We're holding base 112. Im nifsku atfiros atfilin, the tefillah is stitch closed. What happens if some of those stitches are actually severed or cut? The Rambam im hoishtei tfiros zeh betzad zeh, if the two stitches next to one another, o shnifsku shalosh tfiros hafilu shlo keneged zeh, right? It's on all four sides. So if the stitches are adjacent to one another, even if two of them, or three, even if they're not next to one another, harelu psulim, tefillin pasul. B'mei dvarim amurim b'yishanim, only if they're old tefillin. Al b'chadoshim kol zman she'or moshev habatim kaim ksherim. As long as the bottom of the tefillin, the leather is intact. You know, sometimes you ever see it gets wavy, especially when you have the dakos, the very thin hide. For any degree of moisture, you know, even from the head, causes it to get warped. So it's not flat any longer. If it's stitched, the stitching holds it tight. But once the stitching is not there, then it loses it starts losing its form. So that's what he says. As long as the or Moshe Baden Kaim Ksherim Be'elohim Chadoshim, when is the leather still considered new leather? Kol she'ozim mikzas or shenikra tifro. You hold on to the leather where the stitch was severed. V'tolin bo atfilin v'chozek vein nifsak, and you hold on to the leather, and the weight of the tefillin will not cause the leather to tear. You hold it by the leather, by the edge over there. V'mein roy litlos bo elu nifsak arei lishanos. But if you hold it and the leather, and we're talking about it's like brittle, we're talking old here, we're talking really old tefillin, and whoever sausage you think, if you keep it in relatively climate-controlled location, it never happens, this kind of thing. I remember, what's his name, Albert Boydman told me that when he was in service and he was stationed in Japan as a doctor, when he was a doctor, he says the moisture, or maybe it was somebody when he was in Korea. So, in Korea, they had to keep it in like an airtight something, otherwise after a month or two, they became puzzled. That's how warped they became. That's how much moisture there was. Others say just as we had before. Remember, if there was a tear in the bias. As he said earlier, you should take both into account. So a machmir, whatever it is, whether it's new or old, because that's an indication of there's some kind of defect in the leather itself. It's in Mishna Berura. La Rambam. Al v'shar poskim pligi aleu mekilin b'chol gavdi b'shtei tfiros. If only two stitches are torn, it's still kosher. U'b'shloshet tfiros nifsku machmir afilu tikun b'mokom hepsik lomani. Hear this? He says even if you put a new stitch in that location, it's possible. Tegnayu shenika tikun b'shloshim makomos bein chadosh me'yishanim. If it has to be fixed in three locations, even if the stitch is replaced, it's obvious the difference between those stitches and the other stitches. So it has to be restitched. You know, one piece of gut, you restitch everything. He says if three, even though they're not next to one another, it's possible. You have one stitch on each side of the bias. Moshe Vabatim, it says you take hold of the bottom of the bias. Huatitura, that's the rim, chanal. V'gam das ramok mo b'hagol leil. He's saying the same thing. We have two opinions. If it's old leather, new leather. Others say just the opposite. If it's new leather, it's a problem. If it's old leather, it's not a problem. V'gam abad mitzrichim lios kayomim el l'shesomach halamalo. Lochush, the Ramos says the process was defective. The leather was never processed properly. That's the reason why it's so brittle. Even if it's new, new tefillin, this is like unheard of. So evidently they weren't made right. When they originally was tanned or was processed, the leather wasn't processed properly. Let's see, you can't find any other tefillin. You can't restitch them. You can rely on those more lenient opinions regarding if the stitches are torn. Bein b'chadosh, bein b'shonos, whether it's new tefillin, old tefillin, bein shtei tfiros, bein shalosh, because was this the position of Rambam. Al p'sholosh yor shelo yivorach aleim. Hear this? He says, in regard to the stitching, you have to be careful. If you have 3 stitches which are torn, we said even if they're not on the same side of the bias, you should not say a bracha. Put them on without a bracha. Because in Saf Derais L'Chumra, you should put them on, and bracha will make them. I'm Ber Aloha. Besides all the various opinions regarding this. We'll leave it for now.
All right. Quick question. In a mezuzah, it's the clock that's the most important. The bias that holds the clock.
That's not a bias.
Right. So
Torah doesn't prescribe me. But
here the parchment.
The tefillin. Tefillin. Wait a second. Halachah, what you say? Tefillin comprised of a box made of a certain type of leather. It has to be black. You have to have a shin. You have to have stitches. You have to have parchments. So that's all part of tefillin. You know, human being. What's a human being? If a person wouldn't have a brain, would he be a human being? So is a human being just a skull with a brain in it? You have a body. That's what a human being is.
Yeah, but why is tefillin?
That's the lochel mishri. That's what tefillin is.
So it's as important as the clock.
No less than that. Every detail has to be there. It's not there. It's not tefillin. What happens if it's round? I mean, it's stukim, right? They wear tefillin, that tefillin. That was an indication of a stuki. This tefillin they would wear wasn't flat. It was round. It was like oval. That's the way the tefillin looked. Because that's the way they interpreted. You know, that was their literal interpretation. Totofos.
That wouldn't be good.
It's not valid. It's not. Or aritzuos, the leather of the straps. Has made of the skin of a domesticated, undomesticated, or even a bird skin of a kosher species. And when it's processed, it's tanned, it has to be processed specifically for tefillin. Bei me'or, bei meklap ksheros. Any part of the tefillin. Because the ritzu is not the tefillin, right? I mean, it's an integral part, but maybe the ritzu is what you tie it with. You tie it onto your hand or put it on your head. Maybe the tefillin is the box with the parchments, right? The strap is no less important than the tefillin themselves.
What do you use? Bird skins?
The Gemara discusses it. The Gemara even discusses fish skin. The Gemara leaves it teku because it has a certain smell. It's not appropriate. And the Gemara had a question on bird skin only in regard to the klaf. Why? Because a bird skin has feathers. So when you pull out the feather, there's a very large pore. So when you write on it, it's possible the ink, it's large. The ink will actually fall through. So the letter's going to be actually it's like a perforated letter. So that's the whole discussion of using bird skin for klaf. I mean, it qualifies for klaf in terms of the species. But the question is, but practically speaking, is it practical? Bar concludes that it's not, the ink is the viscosity of the ink is thick enough that it's going to seal, the holes aren't that large, it'll seal the hole. So you're not going to have perforations in the letters. That's the conclusion. It's more Shabbos we had.
That's cloth. The box and
Same
everything.
thing. There's no reason not. It's the same pasuk. It says it has to be of a species that you're permitted to eat the species. That's tefillin.
Which is no good.
Just discussing, Gemara differentiates. How do you differentiate between a kosher egg and a chulin? We didn't learn that there. It's in Elu Traders. How do you differentiate between a kosher egg and a non-kosher egg? You have to go to the zoo. You have to see a turtle egg or an ostrich egg. It's round. A kosher bird or a robin's egg, it's round. A kosher egg is always, it has a point on both ends. One is pointier and the other is a little rounder. It's like oval. Every kosher bird, non-kosher bird, the egg is a round egg. That's one of the signs of a non-kosher egg. What?
Spherical lips.
What to the egg? Yeah. Sometimes it's also like slightly flat on the top and the bottom. You ever see the way in the zoo you see it sometimes? The egg is there, very large egg. It's the middle of by the turtle or the bird. The birds. Birds are round. They're not flat on top and bottom. But an ostrich egg is very large.
Round, right?
You've heard in South Africa, it's part of the industry. Ostrich feathers. That was a major industry. Down in a lot, they raise ostriches. It's a desert bird, an ostrich. You know that. It's called the Yano. Yano is the ostrich.
Is it kosher?
No, it's not. It's listed as one of the non-kosher species. No, it's a predator bird. It's a vicious bird, an ostrich. It could kill a lion, an ostrich. With its whatever you call it, its foot, its leg, it hits it. It could kill. That's how powerful the bird is. It could run about 40 miles an hour. An ostrich. Remember, somebody I went to yeshiva with. He had a yeshiva in South Africa, and he put out a Torah journal, and he gave it to me. He was visiting Baltimore many years later, and he called it Kol Africa. That was the title for the journal, The Voice of Africa. You can understand what was in the journal. Okay, Africa speaks. Let's do Mishna Berura Tefillin. Lo huchshara melech hashamayim el Torah b'levod. Gemara. You know, all the species. There's a whole discussion. You know, the tolah shani. Anything that's used for a dvar mitzvah has to be from kosher species. So in the Mishkan, one of the dyes is called tolah shani. Right? What's a tolah? A worm. So it seems to be the blood of a worm. That they use that. That was the crimson dye. So there's a Ravina Bachya. He says it doesn't mean that, because again, because anything for dvar mitzvah has to be come from a kosher source. So if it would be a worm, it wouldn't qualify for the Mishkan, for the red dye in the Mishkan, for the crimson. See, it was a type of bean or berry that was called tolah shoni, but it wasn't the worm itself.
What about the philosophy?
Chalosum. No.
What was a worm? Was it?
The chalosum was the chelas. Yeah. It's a snail. It's a snail.
It's a snail. Right.
Snail.
It's not a kosher species.
No. It's good. There's a Chuvas Chassam. There's a response from Chassam Sof talks about all this. You're right. It's
like a bee.
No, bee is not kosher. No, but the Gemara goes out of its way to show that even though the bee is not kosher species, the extract of the bee is kosher.
Right.
But chelas, all these other things are not brought as examples. Dvash, because the Gemara has a whole discussion. How do you know dvash means bee's honey? Maybe it means nectar, the nectar of a date. Maybe it means date nectar. So the Gemara finally brings a proof from Shimshon. When he killed the lion, it says there was the bees made a nest within the carcass of the lion that Shimshon had killed.
One of the riddles we gave to...
Right, to Delilah, to Delilah. That was the story. B'tzorech, it says it has to be processed l'shma. Kol ha'tzorech likuva hu afilu b'diavad. L'shma, it has to be, now he says, afilu ramad v'mekel b'batim. The Rambam says the leather for the batim doesn't have to be made l'shma. You don't have to process the leather l'shma. Kimbur le'el similam v'esi, but moda hocho. But here he concurs that the ritzus have to be made l'shma. V'tam l'zeh ayin l'vush mogen avrom v'hashchoro. What about the blackening? The blackening of the straps. Tzorach gam k'shiyel l'shma. They have to be done l'shma. If initially the leather wasn't processed for the sake of tefillin, even if you blacken it for tefillin, it's not going to help it, because it's a separate. Each one has to be done l'shma, the blackening and the processing of the leather. Chuvas dvar shmul sim zayin ansham. Chuvas bereishis kosav dashchora l'shma mahani. That even if the strap was not processed l'shma, but if you blacken l'shma, that corrects the deficiency. Ein chuvas Rabbi Akiva Eiger. That just to the contrary, that each one needs its own lishmo. The straps have to be processed to have lishmo for the sake of tefillin, and the blackening has to be done. The hirish al mikilin v'zeh ein sham. Yeah. You know, years ago, there was, the two shoe polish companies. There was Esquire, and there was Griffin. I mean, there was Griffin shoe polish. I don't know when you came to this, I don't know if it was in business any longer. Griffin. So there's a question of those years, could you use them to blacken your tefillin with that boot polish? Because as long as all the ingredients are kosher ingredients, there's no reason why not. It doesn't say the polish has to be made lishma. The blackening process has to be lishma. I think they said then, for whatever, Griffin, I think, qualified to be used to blacken tefillin. So in those years, you didn't have this tefillin pen. You had a can of this Griffin in your talis bag, and you were blackening it. I tell you, the world has changed. So in those years, many people wore tefillin. Most of the tefillin wasn't even kosher. The straps lost their blackness. No, people didn't think they went to a sofa. No, they were chipped, they were cracked, they were this. They were totally in disrepair. Today, a bar mitzvah boy, you order tefillin 3 years before at $3,000 pair of tefillin to make sure you have it for his bar mitzvah. It was unheard of in those years. People couldn't afford to put bread on the table. You go to a sofa, he charge you $2 to fix the tefillin, to check it, to sew it, to blacken it, do everything. To be continued.
To David's question about the scale, how is it
I don't remember. There's a true discussion so far on this. He discusses it. He's the one who recites Rabbeinu Bach on the Tolah Shani. Because seemingly you would say that maybe since it's only a color, it's not substance. Maybe. But you see, not like that.
Right.
I don't remember what he says. Tachash. Tachash wasn't the question. Was that a kosher species? Also, he discusses it. Tachash or a tachash. The skins, right, that covered the Mishkan. It was made. It was to hide. The Gemara says it was a species that was there just for the moment, and it became extinct. Sasguna, right? It's multicolored. Sos al gavonim shelo. It's like the peacock. It's not a peacock, but it's the old Chumash used to be translated as seal skin. Scale in the Hertz Chumash, I think they would translate as seal skin.